bad as that game was, it did produce a champion. The Seahawks hoisted the Lombardi Trophy last night as the Eagles' reign as Super Bowl champs officially came to an end. Seattle taking down the Patriots 29-13 in one of the least entertaining games you'll ever watch. Sam Darnold now a champion, while running back Kenneth Walker crowned Super Bowl MVP. A dominant defensive performance for head coach Mike McDonald's team as they now sit atop the NFL. Huddle up. We welcome you to Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL. Mr. Barrett Brooks, I'm Michael Barkan. What did you make of the game, and when did it dawn on you, this ain't going to be good?
You know what, I mean, even me, being a defensive player, a defensive, minded Super Bowl guy, because I won mine with the Super Bowl, this game was even, less entertaining than my Super Bowl 40. And it was like, everybody's like, oh, you guys are doing it. It was a defensive game. So, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a Super Bowl. That's like I was watching on Sunday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, of course, had the Eagles played in that game and won in that fashion, we would have been celebrating and parading our way right up to the Art Museum. Yeah. It's just we're looking, unfortunately, from afar. 3-point stance.
Was it the problem?
Yeah, which is the problem, which brings up 3-point stance, presented by our friends at Toyota. Stance 1. The Eagles wasted a season. Wide open year in the NFL ends with Seattle on top. No one saw the Seahawks emerging as a dominant team. As you look back, Barrett, how did the Eagles fail to take advantage of this opportunity?
Because I thought our defense was right up there with their defense. We had the experience of being in a Super Bowl. We had, a healthier offensive line. We could have took control of this whole entire NFL. We just didn't let it happen. So, things would be totally different. KP would still be the offensive coordinator. We still have, one of the best in Stoughton University who still be open, not an enclosed Stoughton University. Things are just so different now. But we had the perfect opportunity this year because of the parity in the NFC. There was no guy that really jumped out with the exception of Seattle. And they didn't look like they were a Super Bowl winning team. They just looked like an average team. And here they are. They won a Super Bowl in spite of us.
Play a little fantasy with me. If the Eagles had beaten their two opponents and made it to the NFC Championship game at Seattle, would they have given the Seahawks a run for the money or no?
They would have beat the Seahawks.
You think so?
I think so. Because if they'd have made it to that point, that meant that offensive line is playing better. The health of the offensive line is just what really took us out of this whole scheme. It took us out of it because those guys up front could not block anybody because they were playing on one leg. So, and half of a backs. So it's just really crazy because I sit back and I see how dominant our offensive line was the year before. And to everybody to think that they just not that good going into this year, it's because of the injuries. They're still a great dominant offensive line when they're healthy. But, hey, if.
Yeah. Speaking of the O-line, we are going to talk about it extensively in Stay or Go. That's coming up a little bit later. Stance 2, though, Chris Kuper has huge shoes to fill. The Eagles are set to hire the Minnesota cast-off Kuper as their new offensive line coach, per reports. Kuper replaces the legendary Jeff Stoutland, who announced last week that he would not be back in that role. Kuper spent the last 4 seasons as the Vikings O-line coach, where he crossed paths with Sean Mannion, who was a backup in Minnesota, you'll recall. Kuper's contract was not renewed by the Vikings. That allowed him to join the Eagles. He's a former player who played 8 NFL seasons for the Broncos, a starter for 6 of them. Barrett, you like to say one man's trash is another man's treasure. What do you think of the new O-line coach?
You know what? Just from remembering him when he played for Denver. It's around that same time where they had a great running game. And, if they're going to implement that same type of Alex Gibbs offensive line play, this could be good, but it's a little different from what people are running now. When you look at an Alex Gibbs offensive line, they block spaces instead of blocking people. And when you're running inside and outside zone that way, it gives the running back more autonomy to get to where he needs to get to and cut off and make and wherever he wants to go. So they're not blocking people; they're going to be blocking spaces, and that's the difference. I spent a cup of coffee in Denver, and I was under Alex Gibbs, and they're like smaller, athletic offensive linemen, but blocking schemes were different back then because they were cutting and doing a whole bunch of stuff that you can't do these days. But the way they run that offensive line, they run to a space and give the back the time to run wherever he wants to go in that offensive line. So they'll go a gap over, trying to get to the outside zone, and it really opens things up for that running back to now pick where he needs to go. They don't force him to go anywhere. And this offensive line are used to bullying people and making them and forcing the running back to go in that direction because they could do that. They could overpower people. They could drive people off the line. And when you have a big offensive line like that, you can do that. I don't know how this is going to adjust with, the offensive line they have now. The whole blocking scheme is going to be totally different from what I've seen here in Philadelphia. We'll see, but I mean, it's not like that's not a good scheme. It's a great scheme. Yeah. I mean, it had a bunch of guys, like Terrell Davis, Mike Anderson, Clinton Portis, Alandis Gary. I was in camp with all four of those guys, running backs. In fact, it was Clinton Portis' rookie year. And, I was just amazed on how they blocked and their schemes were. They don't do a lot of man blocking, but they do a lot of zone blocking, which they try to displace the defense and run up in the holes that way.
Yeah. Well, so if you're the Eagles' offensive line and you're a veteran offensive line who's been under the tutelage of Jeff Stoutland, you got this guy coming in. Are you going? You show me, or is it going to be a smooth transition?
There are going to be some, some lines drawn in the sand. But you got, you're thinking about good guys. These are great guys in that locker room. It's not like they're, guys, you can't really. If you show them you can make them better, they'll follow. They'll come into, and all right, we'll see what you got, coach. But you're gonna have to make sure that you get these guys, on the right page. You're gonna have to make sure that you're the type of person that you understand that you have to make them better. You have to make them better. If you can't make them better, they won't listen to you. Why would they have to listen to you? You got all these Pro Bowlers and everything else on the line. You're going to have to do what you need to do to really get these guys to buy into what you're saying.
All right, to be clear, Sean Mannion is remaking this offensive staff with folks he's worked with in the past. There were rumblings last week that Clint Kubiak had planned to make Mannion his offensive coordinator with the Raiders before the Eagles swooped in. Can you envision Jalen Hurts and the Eagles running something similar to what the Seahawks do?
I can, because it worked. I mean, look what happened. The leading rusher, Walker, balled that game. It's the same system, same scheme. They run zone and let the running back pick where he needs to go. This could be favorable for us, and that should have been us in the Super Bowl.
Stance number 3, A.J. Brown's future is truly up in the air. Brown was in the Bay Area during Super Bowl week making the media rounds. He appeared on Micah Parsons' podcast where the host asked him about Philadelphia and the changes to the Eagles staff. Take a listen to Brown's responses.
Philly welcomed me with open arms. That's home, man, and I love them. I love the support. I love the accountability. I love everything else that they do. Philly is Philly. You have to be there to understand.
Is there excitement with some of the new coaches y'all got in?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm always excited. Sometimes change is not a bad thing. I have the utmost respect for KP. He to me, he did a tremendous job, and he has a great heart. But I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for what's to come.
I am really interested in your thoughts on what he just said, because I have some definitive ideas my own self. But what did you think about, does he mean it? Do you think that means he wants to be here?
He wants to be where he can be productive. And if we can make him productive, he wants to be here. It's not like he hasn't adopted Philly as his, a place in which he definitely, takes him as him being a Philadelphian as far as being here. It's not like he doesn't like the city, he doesn't like the team. He just doesn't like the production that he's having while on this team. He feels as though he's one of the, 3 best receivers in the league. And he can't show that with the offense and the production he's having right now. So what I got of it was he liked KP. He didn't have anything bad to say about KP. I think it was more so he wasn't getting production on the field during that time period he was on the field. And that only comes when, Jalen has to get the ball to him. So, yeah. I think that's the biggest thing.
I thought he went out of his way to thank Kevin Patullo, the deposed offensive coordinator, and he's a guy who speaks his mind, A.J. Brown. I really thought if anybody was going to say it's good that this happened, it would be A.J. Brown, but he said no. He appreciated what Kevin Patullo did for him. Do you think implied there is the fact that Jalen Hurts was not mentioned in any way?
Well, and, Coach Sirianni either. So, I mean, he wants to get the ball. And since he wasn't getting the ball, he has a little attitude about it. There got to be more of an opening up the offense and get him the ball, make him more involved in the passing game. I know that last game is, what have you done for me lately? That was horrible. But I really believe we need to keep him here. He needs to be on this team. And, it's not necessarily what Kevin Patullo was doing. It was more so what we lacked on the field, and that was, blocking up front and quarterback getting the ball to him when he needed to get the ball to him.
And you have said all along, my friend, that you thought he would be here. He's with this team. He's signed with this team that'll be here. And I think you're absolutely right about that.
He's going to be here, yes.
Brown stays. Stay or go is a segment where we run through the Eagles roster position by position and determine who will be back and who might not. Today, a group we expected to have few question marks all of a sudden does. That's the interior of the offensive line. Landon Dickerson's future is now uncertain. Multiple reports indicate the 27-year-old could contemplate retirement as he deals with a myriad of injuries. Cam Jurgens had a rough year at center. Tyler Steen still has another year left on his rookie deal. And then there are some veteran backups like Matt Pryor and Brett Todt, and a couple of rookie center prospects in Drew Kendall and Willie Lampkin. But, Barrett, let's start with the Dickerson question. Describe the massive loss the Eagles would experience if Landon Dickerson happens to call it a career.
Massive, massive loss. Not just, his physique. He's a massive human being at that left guard position. But just him not being there really, puts us in a bind because he's a powerful man. He opened up holes. He muscled guys open. But, if his body can't handle it, it's tough. I've seen it happen before. Like I said last week, Tony Baselli retired at 29 years old. That's these young guys, and when he was in college, he went through the same thing. Yeah, well, I think he had 2 surgeries in college on his knees. His body is just broken up, and it's because the physical style of play in which he does. You can't go out there and think you're going to hit people and choke people and not think that your body's not going to take a toll. He's so physical, and he wants to hit people and maul people that your body just can't handle that a lot of times. So hopefully he has a lot more time than he had last year, a month and a half more than he had last year when they won the Super Bowl, to get his body going, get in the right direction. Because every year after we finished playing the season, I wanted to retire too. The way I felt, I wanted to retire. But then you want to get back, and then all of a sudden he's going to call, Lane Johnson and be like, hey, let's give it another roll.
Yeah.
And we'll be back.
Hopefully, let's fingers crossed on Landon Dickerson. Let's move to the center position. How confident are you in a bounce-back season from Cam Jurgens, who was named to the Pro Bowl, but that's in name only, really. He did not have the season we expected.
You said bounce back. Mm-hmm. Emphasis on back. His back is what had led him to not playing as physical as he usually plays. He wasn't in a position to really do a lot of things. When you can't get your back adjusted, you can't move, it keeps you from redirecting, and that's why a lot of teams took advantage of that. They lined up guys on his left side, his snaps, opposite snap hand, and came and rushed to the outside on the other hand. All that stuff was, really hurting him as a player, and you really can't scheme it because, those guys get paid too. They saw what was going on. They saw that they would let guys cross his face. They saw that he would be overpowered, and that's because his back. Bro, when have you woke up in the morning and your back feels like it's been, just taken out of your body?
This morning.
And it's hard to get out of bed. Well, he feels the same way. Imagine being that way every single day, and then you're going out there and you're fighting 400-pound guys. That's the worst thing you can do for your back. So hopefully he gets, a little more healthy into this season, and that back issue is gone from him.
Staying with the interior of the line, do you view Tyler Steen as a long-term starter at guard?
Tyler Steen had a pretty good year. I know people don't like to, want to admit it, but Tyler Steen played up to, the level he needed to play. He played like a starter. He came in, he probably the most consistent out of all the offensive linemen we had this year. So Steen, I'm cool with Steen. I can see him being a guy that can be a full-time starter from this point on. He's got one more year on that rookie deal. They're going to have to pay him a little bit. But, I like Steen. I like his game, and I like the way he plays it.
All right, so 2 questions. 1, the depth they currently have to fill the void if it's needed. And 2, first-round pick on a lineman coming up in April, or what do you think they'd do?
It would not be in the interior, be it on the guys on the outside. We need somebody to start with grooming somebody to take Lane Johnson's position. But, I'm looking at it. I like what we have. Drew Kendall. Really good player, Boston College. I think he can come in and play the center position or guard position. Willie Lumpkin, he's strictly a center. But then look, Matt Pryor, he's probably out of here. Brett Toth, he's a free agent this year.
Yeah,
played a lot. He's been here for a long time. He'll probably be here for a long time.
All right, got a couple of months before the draft.